Hi, my name is David NACHMAN. I'm one of the managing attorneys at the NPZ Law Group, and I'm here with SNEHAL BATRA, who's the managing attorney of our Raritan, New Jersey office. We also have offices in New York City, and we have an office in an affiliated office in Canada and an affiliated office in India. And SNEHAL and I were just doing a video about the bona fides of the marital relationship and the documents that one could look at to demonstrate the bona fides of the marital relationship. And actually, when we were done with that video, SNEHAL had mentioned to me, she said, you know, what we really need to talk about and tell our viewers about is something called the Stokes Interview. And I said, you know something, SNEHAL, you're absolutely right, because probably a lot of people don't even know what that is. So SNEHAL, can you tell us what is the Stokes Interview and why is it important to know a little bit about that?
Sure. Thank you, David, and thank you for watching our videos. The Stokes interview is also known as the marriage fraud interview. So what happens is when you file a green card based on marriage, there is an interview. And at the time of the interview, you need to submit, bring with you the documents to show that you are a real couple, and these are what's called the bona fide documents. In addition to that, there is the interview component. And so what happens is the immigration officer will review the documentation, but more importantly, they're going to be asking questions about your life together, how you met, you know, how did you propose? Where was your wife born? How many siblings does your husband have? And so these documents, these questions are asked to confirm whether or not it is a real marriage. And so if the immigration officer suspects that it is not a real relationship, then what they do is they could ask you to come back again and conduct what's called the Stokes interview. And the Stokes interview is when they separate the couple and ask one person specific questions about the other individual. And then these are, you know, could be very personal and invasive questions. And what happens is typically the interview is recorded. And once they complete the questions with the one spouse, the second spouse will come in and the same set of questions are asked. And this is to, again, confirm if the answers match, if the individual is really living together. And what's really interesting is that this is really a good way, believe it or not, for them to confirm whether or not there has been fraud committed. So, David, what type of examples do you recall some of the questions that an immigration officer would ask during the Stokes interview?
Well, actually, so I've been, first of all, I think it's really important. Number one is, would you, and I'm going to just put a quick question back to you, SNEHAL, would you recommend that a lawyer goes to the Stokes interview if you know that a client is having a Stokes interview?
Absolutely. It's very critical because what will happen is this is actually, you've been given a second chance. And at this point, the Immigration Service has the ability to deny the case. And if that happens, you know, there is a good chance under this administration that you could be put into removal proceedings. So it is very important that if you do get called in for a Stokes interview, you have proper legal representation.
Absolutely, Chalkus. And in fact, what I was also going to say to you, so I've been doing immigration law way too long, 30 years. I've only actually had 3 Stokes interviews in 30 years. And the one, you asked for an example during the Stokes interview. I'll tell you it was a great example. And it was one where I, thank goodness, it didn't happen on the second interview. It actually happened on the first. And what it was, right, and what it was is it was a high school sweethearts. They were 18 years old. They decided to get married. They were living together in the parents' house. And what happened was the officer separated them, and I was there to be able to be with them during the Stokes interview. So I was with the husband, and then when the husband left the room, I was with the wife. The question the officer asked was, how do you wake up in the morning? The husband said, alarm clock. The wife said, cell phone. And it was really interesting. So I said to the officer, can you please ask where the alarm clock is? And the husband said it was on the cell phone. So there's an opportunity where, if thank goodness, I was there to be able to help them to understand and to help clarify that issue, because that could have been a potential problem for the clients because of the discrepancy. And yet, because they had representation, that we were able to sort of save the day for them. So
Absolutely. I think that when the immigration officer sees that an attorney is present with the clients, they know that they have to conduct themselves within the parameters of the law. I mean, I've heard of very crazy and bizarre stories where they're going so deep into these questions when clients are not represented, and of course, clients, they're nervous. They don't know. They're stressed out. They're nervous. So it's very important that you have representation and the attorney prepares you. I know in our office, when we have a marriage case, we actually set aside time for coaching. And then we actually do what's called a mock interview. And, we pretend that we're the immigration officers, and then we go through with the clients what kind of questions to expect and what are good answers or, appropriate answers. Because the other thing is that if you're not sure, it's okay to say, I don't know, instead of making up an answer, because that's the worst thing that could happen. You're thinking, all right, I'm not sure, but I'm just going to say garbage is picked up on Thursday and really it's Friday. So you can say, I don't know. That's perfectly acceptable. They'll move on, ask another questions. But anyway, back to my point is that we prepare and coach the client, and that's a very important part of that interview process.
I think that's absolutely a best practice. And I just want to wince sometimes when I'm at the immigration office and I'm sitting there and I have another lawyer in the back of the room who's preparing their clients right on the spot without doing it up front and helping the clients to feel comfortable. So we spend a tremendous amount of time preparing the clients in advance so they know what to expect. It's really about knowing the expectations and having, understanding what to expect when they go to one of these interviews. So with that, I just want to invite anyone who has any additional questions with regard to marriage-based cases or BonaFide documents that you can show, or Stokes. By the way, Stokes versus US is the name of the case that was actually that was in the courts, where the idea behind separating people is challenged but overruled. So that's why they're allowed to do that. So with that, please feel free to reach out for SNEHAL, for myself. We're more than happy to answer any questions you might have. Thanks very much for tuning in, and we look forward to providing you and yours more additional and helpful information in the future. Be well for now.
Thank you.